Cowboys Nation, buckle up because this is one of the most jaw-dropping developments we've seen in years, something that shakes the very foundation of what we thought we knew about the Dallas Cowboys defense. The unthinkable has finally happened. Yes, it's official. Micah Parsons, the face of the Dallas Cowboys defense, the heart, the soul, the relentless pass rushing machine who has become one of the most feared defenders in the entire NFL, is no longer wearing the star on his helmet. That's right, Parsons has been traded, and the Cowboys front office, led by the ever-dramatic and unpredictable Jerry Jones, has already started planting the seeds for his replacement. And folks, the name that is echoing through NFL circles, front office whispers, and media rumor mills is none other than Trey Hendrickson, the Cincinnati Bengals Pro Bowl edge rusher who has quietly, yet consistently, become one of the league's premier pass rushing threats. Before we dive into Hendrickson and the implications of a possible Cowboys trade to bring him to Dallas, let's talk about what led to the shocking decision to part ways with Micah Parsons. This wasn't just about money, although the contract negotiations certainly played a role. It wasn't just about ego, although that too had a seat at the table. This was about a deep philosophical divide within the organization. Reports have suggested that Micah and the coaching staff, particularly defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer and even head coach Mike McCarthy, began clashing over scheme fit, usage, and workload. Parsons wanted to be used more dynamically, wanted more say in his role, and of course, wanted to be paid like the generational player he is. But with the Cowboys already paying top dollar to Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb nearing his extension window, and key contracts looming across the roster, Jerry Jones and the front office made what they viewed as a tough but necessary business decision and traded their superstar linebacker in a blockbuster deal that sent shockwaves through the NFL. The trade package was substantial, a pair of first-round picks and a veteran defensive lineman in return, but no matter how you slice it, trading a player of Parsons' caliber is a move that shifts the trajectory of a franchise. It alters how you compete. It alters how your defense is structured. And most importantly, it alters the identity of the team. Micah Parsons wasn't just a star, he was the identity. The energy. The heartbeat. And so now, the million-dollar question is, how do you replace that? Enter Trey Hendrickson. While he doesn't have the flash or social media profile that Micah Parsons commands, make no mistake, Hendrickson is an absolute beast in the trenches. Over the past few seasons with the Bengals, he has quietly put together a resume that would make any GM salivate. We're talking back-to-back double-digit sack seasons, elite pressure rates, and a motor that just doesn't quit. He's one of those players who, while not always in the national spotlight, is respected deeply by offensive coordinators around the league because of how consistently disruptive he is. So why would the Bengals even entertain moving him? Well, Cincinnati is in a bit of a financial bind themselves. With Joe Burrow on a massive contract, Ja'Marr Chase due for an extension, and a roster full of young, emerging talent that needs to be paid, it's becoming increasingly difficult for the Bengals to keep all of their stars under one roof. Hendrickson, now approaching the back end of his prime, might be seen as expendable, especially if they can get valuable draft capital or a younger asset in return. And that's where the Cowboys come in. Dallas, despite losing Parsons, still believes they are in win-now mode. They've got the offensive firepower. Dak is still in his prime. The offensive line, while aging, is serviceable. The receiving core is dynamic. And the defense, despite losing its alpha, still has pieces in place, guys like Darren Bland, Trayvon Diggs, if healthy, and an emerging interior presence in Osa Odigizua. Adding a veteran like Hendrickson could immediately restore some of that lost pass rushing firepower and give Dallas the kind of edge pressure they'll need to compete in an increasingly competitive NFC. Now let's talk about what makes Hendrickson a strong fit for Dallas' defensive scheme. Unlike Parsons, who thrived in hybrid roles, sometimes standing up, sometimes with his hand in the dirt, occasionally even dropping into coverage, Hendrickson is more of a traditional 4-3 defensive end. He wins with leverage, power, and relentless effort. That makes him an ideal fit for Mike Zimmer's more structured defensive philosophy. Zimmer isn't known for coddling stars or bending schemes around individual talents. He wants guys who can execute their role with discipline. Hendrickson fits that mold perfectly. He brings professionalism, toughness, and production. But the real question is, can he be the guy in Dallas, or is he just a stopgap while the Cowboys figure out a long-term solution? That's where this situation gets even more intriguing. Because while Hendrickson might be the headline name now, the Cowboys are also loading up on draft capital, and that's a signal that they may be planning a deeper, longer-term rebuild on that side of the ball. With 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft, Dallas has the flexibility to package picks, move up for a top-tier pass rusher, or even take multiple defensive players to bolster their front seven. So it's possible, even likely, that Hendrickson would serve as a bridge player, a veteran leader who can produce while younger players develop behind him. And that wouldn't be a bad thing. Championship teams aren't always built on superstars alone. Sometimes, it's the right mix of veterans and youth that creates a winning culture. And let's not forget, Hendrickson has playoff experience, including deep postseason runs with Cincinnati. He knows what it takes to play high-stakes football in January, something this Cowboys team desperately needs more of. Now, from a fan perspective, this trade hurts. There's no sugarcoating it. Micah Parsons was beloved, not just for his on-field dominance, but for his charisma, his confidence, and his willingness to speak his mind. He was a brand unto himself. Cowboys fans saw in him the next great defensive legend, someone who could sit alongside DeMarcus Ware, Charles Haley, and Randy White in franchise lore. To see him walk, or worse, to see him dominate in another jersey, is gut-wrenching. And the emotional toll it could take on the locker room is real. Leadership voids are hard to fill, and Hendrickson, while respected, isn't the same kind of vocal, locker room presence. But football is ultimately a business, and Jerry Jones, for better or worse, is a businessman. He's gambling that he can restructure this team, build a more balanced roster, and still compete in the NFC without needing to hand $200 million to one defensive player. It's a bold move, and it might backfire. But it also might be brilliant. If Hendrickson can produce 12-15 sacks, if the rookies develop, and if the Cowboys use their draft picks wisely, this could be a rare case of addition by subtraction. And don't rule out more moves either. There are whispers that Dallas could also target other veteran edge rushers still on the market or available via trade. Names like Danielle Hunter, Josh Allen, and even a long shot like Khalil Mack have all been tossed around by insiders. The Cowboys could be more aggressive than people realize. They know the window is closing. They know that Dak's prime years aren't infinite. They know that the NFC East is getting tougher by the year, with the Eagles and even the Commanders making bold roster moves. So every decision they make now, from the Hendrickson pursuit to the draft strategy to the internal development of their young players, will define the next 3 to 5 years of Cowboys football. In summary, the Micah Parsons era is officially over in Dallas. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But in his place, Trey Hendrickson might just be the steady, workman-like presence this defense needs to stay relevant and competitive. He's not flashy. He's not going to trend on social media every week. But he brings something just as valuable: consistent pressure, experience, and a hunger to win. And sometimes, that's all you need. Cowboys fans, I know this is a lot to process, and emotions are running high. But the NFL moves fast, and the next chapter is already being written. So keep your eyes on the headlines, keep watching that transaction wire, and most importantly, keep believing, because even in the midst of massive change, the star still shines bright. Hit that like button if you want more updates, subscribe so you don't miss the next big trade bombshell, and sound off in the comments: is Hendrickson the right move, or should Dallas go younger in the draft? Let's talk about it. I'll see you